Urban Gameplay, bringing you the most explosive gaming review on the planet.
Yo, what's good, peeps? It's that time when we drop a gaming review, and I wanted to take a close look at the Xbox One's latest IP by the name of Quantum Break, and to see whether the game has lived up to the hype that's been surrounding the title over the past couple of months. For those who don't know, Quantum Break is a third-person cover-based shooter that blends time-bending gameplay with a TV show style of storytelling throughout the game. The game was developed by Remedy Entertainment and has proceeded to be released on the Xbox One and PC, with this review focusing mainly on the Xbox One version of the game. Due to story reasons that I don't wish to spoil, our main protagonist has been imbued with time manipulating abilities that allows him to do a number of time focused powers, with the typical slowdown power making its way into the game, along with the more interesting shield that stops bullets directly in their path, as if you were Neo from the Matrix. These, along with a couple of other time oriented powers with the game, leaves the typical mediocrity you will see in a third person shooter and keep things interesting for the players, at least for the most part. Is the game worth buying? We'll definitely uncover that throughout the review, so let's sit back and look at Quantum Break.
Story.
Without dropping any major spoilers, the story is basically like this. An incident occurs in a research lab, leading to a potentially world-ending catastrophe that has left a fracture in time. This event has led to the imbuement of our main protagonist along with the main antagonist receiving time manipulating powers that you'll be able to make use of to solve the current state of time. One thing I must mention is that Quantum Break melds two entertainment types all in one package: video game and TV show. After every one of the 5 gameplay chapters, you will be treated to some optional 20 minutes long episodes which provide you with more in-depth knowledge of the story if you feel yourself wanting to watch them. Now, however, you're not forced to watch them, but they do add a little extra to the story that you wouldn't get otherwise. So if you feel yourself able to sit through the episodes, then you will be treated to added elements of the story, ones that you might not want to miss. To help meld the two entertainment types together, at least in terms of the story development, throughout the game you will come across collectibles such as emails that give you options to read through some added story for the game. While it does give you some minor story development, there are enough in the game where it gets to a point it could have been constructed as dull and probably won't be everyone's cup of tea in the long run. On top of that, the game does feature a number of areas in the game where your decisions will play out different sections of the story in comparison to the other. Whilst these choices do provide some minor changes to the story, they don't ultimately impact the grand scheme of things and only cement the idea that a second playthrough isn't going to be worth your time. Even though the story choices aren't important enough to warrant a second playthrough, the story the first time around is definitely a strong suit for the game. From the moment you first load the game up right to the very final cutscene, the story engrosses you into the characters, the game world, and the story as a whole. And overall, I do feel that the story in this game is exceptional.
Gameplay.
Moving into the gameplay for the game might feel familiar to you if you've played Alan Wake or the more recent Max Payne title, as the two games were developed by the same team. As such, it does lead to the cinematic stylistic third-person action shooter to be all the more integral and enjoyable when it comes to the overall gameplay. But unlike the previous titles developed by Remedy, they didn't involve time manipulating superpowers that can be used to absolutely decimate your opponents. To me, whilst the combat in the game is mostly a positive, the game does have one issue of spreading itself too thin too quickly. It won't take you all that long to acquire all the major powers in the game, and it kind of slows down the enjoyment of the game in my personal opinion. For me, the initial enjoyment of combining powers together to create your own personal combat is easily a highlight of the game, but after a while you no longer have any new abilities to test out with another one. This is just my opinion, but it does lead to the game becoming a little bit more stale the closer you get to the ending, and could have been avoided if they just given you the ability further from one another, just so that you aren't bombarded with them all at once. In terms of the gameplay, for a new IP, for me it was definitely something fun and enjoyable to play throughout, and just makes the experience of battling your opponents that little bit more enjoyable.
Positives.
Moving into the positives, in terms of the story, I was blown away how well it was put together. It was thrilling and just an overall great story. Not only is the story well written and well directed, I also found that it was voice acted and animated down to the T. Pretty much everyone in the game gives the full commitment to the characters they are playing, and it shows. It was easily one of the considered highlights in the game for me personally.
Negatives.
Moving into the negatives, and disregarding some of the negatives that I mentioned earlier, one of the main negatives that I did find is that the game is relatively short, which is definitely a shame, to be honest, and I don't really feel that the game has strong replay value with it. Obviously, I know we can't always have it our own way when it comes to games, especially if the game already has a great story, decent graphics and cool gameplay. In addition to have a long game as well is a lot to ask, but at the same time it was kind of still shorter than I actually anticipated.
Final verdict.
Moving into the final verdict, and as always before I present my final thoughts, it's always worth checking out what the other established gaming giants have to say about Quantum Break. GameSpot scored a 6 out of 10, highlighting the impressive visuals, but mentioned the fact that the game has sloppy movements and weapon controls. IGN rated Quantum Break 8 out of 10, stating that the game has a great time travel story, but the action becomes mediocre as you progress in the game. Overall for me, while the game may have a few shortcomings, especially in the form of longevity, both for the sake of the gameplay and the second playthrough, the game also does a lot right. For me, it can't be dismissed that the game looks good, regardless of the PC or console version of the game. The story is new and interesting and told through a unique way we haven't really seen before in a video game. On top of that, the gameplay, at least initially, has a lot more going on for it instead of the typical hide behind cover shoot mechanic that second-rate third-person shooters only really have in case of gameplay. If you're a fan of the story-focused games or third-person shooters, then Quantum Break is definitely a game you should be picking up if you're an Xbox One owner, or even if you've got it on the PC. It's definitely a game that I personally suggest because it's definitely great to see new IPs hitting our shelf, and with next gen we haven't really seen the barrage of IPs that we may have seen in previous gens. So all in all, I do feel that this is a game worth playing, but it is really short, so obviously whether you buy the game now or wait a few months until it may reduce in price, that's all down to you guys. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the review of Quantum Break. Do let me know in the comments below if you've got the game already and what your thoughts about the game is so far. Do hit the like button if you enjoyed the review, and also subscribe to the channel if you've not done so already. And until next urban gameplay video, we definitely say peace out, peeps.
Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more cool urban gameplay videos.